In this video, we're going to start our basic text animation project, and so the project files are included in this, and it's really simple. You don't have to have them, but I'm going to include them just so you have something to go off of if you'd like to. But we've got a few words here, and I want to, right off the bat, I want to show you something that you can do to help with lining these up. So I know that we have the Align project panel that we work with over here, but you can see that these are not in Align. If I were running my mouse down here, they're not visually appealing because they're not touching. And maybe you don't want them lining up, that's fine. But in this case, I want to show you how you can line those up, because if we go to here and we select all three of our text layers and we try to left align those, it does a decent job at trying to get this A and the T, but notice our B is still over to the side. And if you see the red box that's around our layers, you can see that they're not lined up. So how can we fix that? Well, there's two options under our view panel. We've got view, show grid, and then we've also got show rulers. The grid will pop this up, and this is for when you really need to get accurate. I mean, you've got these dotted lines inside the squares, and you can help line these things up with a grid, but we're not going to work with that today. If you want to get rid of that, you can also use your shortcut. So we've got control and an apostrophe. So if I go down here and press that, that'll get rid of those. And then to show your rulers, you can use control R, and then we've got these guides that pull up on the side. So you can go to view and then show rulers for that. But real easy, all you have to do is get this double-headed arrow and then click and drag, and you can drag a ruler over into your composition. So we'll line that up. You can also drag one from the top if you'd like, and you can drag more than one. You can drag as many as you need. But I don't need this one, so I'm just going to drag it right back up here. And I don't need this vertical one. We're not going to use that for now. So let's just line this up. And I usually try to make it on one of these even numbers. That way, if I'm trying to line anything up from side to side, I can do 150 pixels from this side, and then I can come over here and do 150 pixels from this side. For example, if I want to use a different number, if I use one of these increments, it's kind of like using a ruler. It's hard to get those precise ones unless I zoom in. And notice when you do zoom in, these units will change. You can see that they're a little bit more broad, and then when you get in, they're more focused. So let's zoom out here to 100%, and I'll use my space to pull up here. And then I'm going to put this, let's move our ruler over to about 225. And we'll pop it right in there. Okay, close enough. So now what we want to do is line up the left edge of our text to that ruler. And you can see that now we have a visual aid here. So if I zoom in, you can see that it's right on that line. So let's go ahead and zoom back out to 100%, and then I'm going to move these other text layers over to that ruler. So this is going to help with the aligning, because the way that fonts work, and if you can't get exactly close over there, you can use your arrow keys to move that. It'll move them over just single pixels. And you can hold shift and your arrow keys to move it more than about 10 pixels at a time. So we'll move that about right there. So what I was saying is that you can use these rulers to line up these, and with fonts, the way that, depending on how they're created, they're not always left aligned by the left edge of the font. And I'm not a typography expert, but I mean, I love font, but I don't know the exact reasons of why it doesn't line up, but for some reason when they're getting created, they have their own parameters, and it's probably so that you have the proper spacing if you're using this letter versus this. And this isn't a typography lesson, so that's basically, I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So now that we've got it lined up on the ruler here, if we click off, we can see that everything's aligned. So now we can take this ruler away, or we can leave it there. If you hit Control R, it will still leave the ruler, but it'll take away the guides. So you can also use Control Shift H if you have other things that are popped up on the screen. Like let's say you're wanting, see how I can click on the layers now, it's not showing anything. If I use Control Shift H, it'll bring all my guides up. It'll take those away. But for the rulers, if you just hit Control R, you can take that off. And then if you hit Control R again, you could drag your ruler back out like that. So, okay, so we've got those lined up. Now what we're going to do is go in and animate some of these. So we're going to take the basic, and then we'll do something with it. Then we'll take this text, and then we'll take animation and do something with it. Now don't forget, if you'd like to use your project flowchart, you can go in here and click on that, and then once we start adding animations, if we use track mats or anything like that, we can see and add those track mats right around here. If you'd like to look at that and just kind of see what's going on, so you can follow the flow of the project. All right, so let's go into basic, and what I want to do with this is I'm just going to have it slide in from the side. So pretty simple animation. What I want to do is go forward to about, I'll go a little bit before 1 second, and I'm going to put a position keyframe, and then I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to drag this X value, and I'm going to hold shift to make it go out of the view even faster, because I don't have much room to work on the side of my screen here. So I'll just let that go. Now if I play this back, it comes into the scene. So for me, I think that's a little slow, and it also looks a little not normal. So we'll add some motion blur onto that, and I'm going to move this keyframe back just a little bit, and that will speed it up. So about half a second, then it will come in. There we go. And so we're going to apply easy ease, so F9, and we'll see what that looks like. So that looks even better. And then let's go ahead and toggle switches and mode and add our motion blur here, and then make sure it's on for the composition. So now if we bring it in, it looks much better. So really smooth, and just kind of comes to a stop there. Okay, so now we've got that one in. Let's go ahead and go to our text layer that says text. And what we're going to do with it is I'm going to bring it from the right side. So let's go ahead and hit P to bring up our position keyframes, and we're going to hit J to go to this ending keyframe here for basic. And I'm going to put a position keyframe here because I want it to start when this keyframe ends. So basically when basic comes in, I want this animation to start. So I'm going to put that right here. And now this is where I want it to be in its ending position. So I'm going to drag it forward to about 1 second, and then I'm going to use this position keyframe to drag it out to the right till it's off the screen. And then that way I can adjust when this starts, and I can move these if I want it to be faster or not. So we'll move this in just a little bit to kind of give that the same. We're going to use F9 here, and I'm also going to add motion blur to this. So now if we preview this, we've got nothing in the screen. We can see basic comes in, then text, and we're going to do the same thing for animation. So we're going to go back to this keyframe. I'm going to go to the word animation, hit P for my position keyframe, and I'm going to move it forward just a little bit because that's where I want it to end. And I'm going to click a position keyframe here. Then we're going to go back with J to the start of here, and then drag it from the left. So we're going to have left, a right, and then a left motion. And we'll use our easy ease here, and we're also going to use motion blur just so it's consistent. Okay, so now when I play this back, see basic, text, animation, and it comes in. So that's pretty simple. We've got them coming in off the screen, but let's add a little bit more flair. And what we'll do is I'm going to make these drop out of the screen by using an opacity. We'll use an opacity keyframe property so that we can just give it a little bit more flair, because it comes in and it looks good when it comes in, but we just want to add one other thing. So what we'll do is we'll have each letter kind of drop off so it changes your focus from one word to the next. So let's go back to the word basic, and we're going to go to the end of that where it starts. And so we're going to click on that layer, hit T for opacity, and then we're going to put a position keyframe, opacity keyframe right there, and that puts it on the same keyframe as the one that we're working with. So let's go, I'm just going to go forward by holding Control or Command on the Mac and then going over 2 keyframes, and we'll change this to 0. So now if we zoom in just a little bit, it'll help us get some distance in between here. It's going to be a real quick fade off of the screen. So if I change that, you can see that it disappears off the screen. So let's see what that looks like from the beginning, and I'll stop it. So we can see how it just kind of cuts off there. Well, let's add some easy ease to make it look even better. Okay, so it clicks off of there. Now let's take these, and what I'm going to show you here is we can take these keyframes and actually copy them and paste them to another layer. So let's copy these, Control C, go up to our text layer, and I'm going to position this right at the end, and you can use J, and I'm going to go to my opacity and click paste. So that puts them, and what that does is it's going to give the same distance and the same effects, so we don't have to worry about changing them intermittently. So you saw how I added position manually. Now you can see the advantage of copying, pasting the keyframes. So we're going to paste it there, and then I'm going to go up to the animation layer. First I'm going to copy these, you could also keep the same copy, and then we're going to paste it right here where this keyframe is. So open up opacity, and I usually open the opacity keyframe property because I want to make sure that they're actually pasting in there. So let's shift click on all of these, and I'm going to use the letter U to open up all of my keyframes so I can see everything that I have going on here. So now if I go back here, I can see that those position keyframes, or the opacity keyframes here, need to be moved. And we may not even have to have these on here depending on the animation you're trying to do, because that's going to be right at the end. So now if we play this back, we can see basic text animation. So it comes off the screen a little bit quick when we bring these out. So you see that it kind of drops off. So we need to move these to have the opacity come off a little bit later until we get the next word on the screen. So why don't we move the opacity keyframes forward in time to, instead of the end here, to maybe about halfway. So let's take these and we'll move these forward. And I'm not going to be too precise on these because I'm really trying to show you how you can change these on the fly when you want to make changes to your composition. And so I'm going to move these forward here. So let's see how that changes our animation. So now they're still kind of dropping off, but I think that they're dropping off way too fast and it's kind of distracting. So now what we can do is click and drag on these, and I'm going to hold the Alt key and drag these out, and I'm going to put the end of the opacity to these keyframes that are actually on the end of the next layer. So let's take this and hold Alt, and just going to drop that out to about right there. And this one, I'm really not even sure we need this at the end. We'll try it one more time. Now let's take a look and see what that looks like. So we see it kind of slowly drops off. So basic text animation. So that is a basic text animation, and kind of guiding you through how you can change the values and get what you're looking for. Now, I would even work on this even further and use some different techniques in order to make it look better, but this will give you an overall idea of how to use the basic text animation properties to go in and move your keyframes around, copy and paste them, and use them like that. So in the next project, we're going to be making a lower thirds, which is the title cards, as some people call them, on a video to show your name and what you do. Or if you're running an interview style footage video, you can put their information on there so people know who they are. So I'll see you in that one.